the challenge of startups and our experience more from that perspective of how do startups operate, because it's quite hard.
Oh yeah,
um,
yeah. I mean, as you said the other day, it might be the hardest thing to do, and I've been thinking about that a lot. That's been on my mind. I'm like, is there anything harder? Because it's definitely on there. It's definitely like top five if it's not number one.
it's on the
Um,
list of the hardest problems, yeah, for sure. So we were
yeah.
talking about how like um, the the less defined a problem is, the harder it is to solve.
Mhm.
The more um, open-ended, or the kind of the bigger the search space is across all of your solutions, right? The harder the problem is. Um, and then also like the more narrow the kind of so wide search space makes it harder, but also like a narrow solution space makes it harder as well, right? So you have this problem where you have a very undefined problem. You have a team of people that is working towards some kind of vision, but can kind of pivot at any point in time depending on the market and the product market fit. You kind of don't even know really what, you're working towards one goal at one point in time, but that can always change. The way in which you do that, or the people that you hire, the order in which you do things there's so many choices you can make that it makes the search space really, really large. And, you know, you don't have someone telling you this is the solution that we need. The market doesn't even know what solution it needs. You have to define the problem and then define the solution. And the solution, there's only going to be a couple solutions that actually work because it's competitive as hell out there. And if it was easy, then someone else would have already done it, would already, taken away all of the opportunity, right? And so um, if it was easy to do, it would have already been done. And so there's only a couple solutions that will actually solve the many, many, many different ways that you could try to solve the many, many different problems. And the way in which you approach that problem is very, is such a wide search space of like, what do I prioritize among hiring versus investors versus funding versus building out the product versus getting customer feedback? How much do I listen to the customer? How much do I listen to my own intuition? And there's all of these choices you have to make. Um, and it's something where you're kind of relying on, either a general framework of thinking, which I would advise is probably the better way to go. Build a really solid foundational framework in the way that you're thinking to make decisions, kind of like a system of thinking. Or you're relying on anecdotal evidence and listening to stories of other successful founders and them telling you this is what worked for me. But then what worked for them in that situation is not necessarily going to work for you in your situation. The situation's a little bit different. The timing's a little bit different, right? Like what worked for Airbnb 5 years ago, everyone's already been trying to take their mentality and apply it to the market. So it's no longer
Uber of X.
yeah. So it's like if Uber is like, all we did was just like make a smartphone app because we had a good idea. And then like, it just, we had to just build scale as fast as possible. It's like, all right, well, that worked for you. But now that there's a million people trying to do the Uber for X thing, like the next best thing might be to think, all right, well, a million people are trying to solve the kind of marketplace solution. What's the next problem that people haven't even thought of yet, right? So to be the next Uber, you can't just copy Uber. You have to kind of copy the framework and systems of thinking that Uber went through in their problem that they solved, and kind of apply your own unique kind of specific knowledge to that problem and your deep understanding of your own problem to that, right? So it's kind of like put yourself in Uber's shoes in 2005. Don't try to do what Uber's don't try to do today what Uber is doing today. Like, you know what I
Right.
mean?